Good morning, and today we're going to go through at least the basics of a pre-flight. This stuff can save your life, so when you're doing a pre-flight, I expect you to at least do this much. Plenty of other stuff you can look at, but we're going to at least do this stuff. So we're going to get in the cockpit, grab the checklist, look at the initial and then the exterior summary, right? And that's what we're going to do right now. So on the initial, it says weather and density altitude. Well, today the weather's not good, so we're just going to do this inside and do the pre-flight and not fly. Weight and balance. If you don't know how to do a weight and balance, at least in flight, make sure you're doing that and that I teach you how to do that. Our performance required. That's in our POH. We need to make sure that with the weight that we figured out, we can get off the runway given the weather conditions. Our flight plan, we're just going to stay local today. Our papers are airworthiness, registration, operating handbook, and weight and balance. Come over here and look for a second. All right, so we're going to look all the way. Go ahead without me here. Just go around and look all the way in the back of the plane. So you step up, look in the back of the plane. There should be the airworthiness and registration. We've got brand new bags for those. So they're right up on the back panel. The airworthiness has to be showing. And then our registration, right? Registration lasts for 7 years now. So I think it's good till after 2030, so we're good for right now. All right, then we're gonna step out of the plane. And we're gonna start right here at the step. All right where the step is, we're gonna start with our flap. We're gonna reach under here and we're gonna make sure that there's 3 threads showing, right? So I do it with my fingernail, just make sure the whole bolt and everything is in and secure. Then right on this seam, there's another one, right? So we're gonna check that one. Make sure 3 threads are sticking out, so I can just feel those with my fingernail. The last one on the flap is out here. We're gonna check, make sure that all 3 of those threads are out. Now you can do this either up or down, and I suggest you do that one way sometimes and another way other times. But if you put the flaps down and they don't go back up, you can't take off. If they're up and they won't go down, then we can still fly, all right? We're gonna learn how to land without flaps. All right, our aileron here. So we're gonna make sure we lift the aileron up with the fat part of our hand, and the yoke is gonna turn, right? Make sure it turns with us. Turning right, the right aileron goes up. So we also wanna make sure it goes right direction. Then we'll push it back down, fat part of our hand over here. You know, just make sure we're pushing with the fat part. No pinching it, right? It's very thin metal, right? Underneath here, we have a push rod. We're gonna make sure this moves, but doesn't flop around, right? It's got gaskets and, what do you call it? Silicone rings that we wanna make sure that they're not wearing out on us, right? And then we have 2 hinges. We want to make sure the rod is all the way through the hinges, and every one of these bolts is tight. You can reach on the back side, make sure that the nut is on there also. So we're going to look, make sure the hinge is good. We're going to lift it up, right? The fat part of our hand, and we're going to reach down here and make sure that each one of these 4 nuts is on and tight, all right? Put it back where it was, right? It should be all lined up. And when that's the case, if we look over at the yoke, they should be very close to horizontal, all right? We're gonna come around the leading edge, make sure our light is intact, right? The checklist is gonna tell us to turn all the lights on at first, but by the time you get all the way around, we don't wanna wear the battery out, so we're gonna leave them off, come around, just make sure that the structure of the light is in good shape. This light should be green when we turn it on. All right, come around the leading edge, and I like to put my hand on it just to make sure it's all in good shape. I'm gonna come all the way down here to where it bends, right? And then we're gonna step back and we're gonna check our fuel quantity, right? And then we're gonna underneath and get the quality. Pause for a second. Up the cap and we're gonna set it over one of these screw heads, right? So that it doesn't slide away. Inside here, you can hear the doors rattling around. There's wind outside, and if you're outside on the ramp and doing this, it could blow away. We're gonna tap it a little bit, make sure that our insert in here is nice and on the bottom. If it's up, it's not gonna give you a very good reading, right? We're gonna stick it all the way in on the inside of the plane in this little cutout. We're gonna put our finger on it, lift it up, and look to see how much fuel we have, right? So we measure how much fuel we have, and then we're gonna put the cap back on it and close it off. We're gonna go underneath here, and we're gonna check the quality of the fuel. So put the little piece of metal up in the sump, and we're gonna get a ½ inch to an inch of fuel. What are we looking for on there? We're looking for it to be blue, no water, and no debris in there, okay? While we're under here, we're gonna check the quality of the tire. We're gonna make sure that we've got about 4 fingers of metal showing there. The brakes are intact, and there's no red brake fluid sitting underneath our brake. Right, if you move it, or it's been moved or been flying, that's not gonna help so much. But when it's been sitting overnight in the hangar, you can definitely tell if there's a drip. All right, so we've done the tires, the brakes, the strut. We've checked the quality of the fuel, right? The quantity of the fuel. We forgot one thing, which is at the back here. We want to make sure that the vent is open, right? This little piece back here is a vent. We want to make sure that air can get in there. The cap is also vented, and there's a little bitty hole right here on the edge of the cap that lets air in. Doesn't let fuel out, but lets air in. All right? So now we got ourselves up to here. We're gonna check to make sure the vent is open, right? Make sure there's not mud daubers or whatever closing that up. This vent goes in by our leg, right? Gives us air as we're flying, right? We wanna make sure it's open. Check the leading edge to the fuselage here, and then we're gonna open up the engine. All right, pull this open, lift it up nice and slowly, right? And lay it back. It has a lever here, and you can plug it in right there to keep it open in the wind. Only problem is when we take out the fuel stick, you can't get it all the way out with the cover on its mount. Kind of makes a rhyme there. All right, we're gonna bring the fuel stick out, an oil dipstick, right? And we're gonna check to make sure that we have, the manufacturer says we gotta have at least 2. We wanna have close to 6, right? So we're gonna look and we can see up here at the top that it's got 8 here, and then we're sitting right about 6, right? So it's not real dark, it's kind of yellowish. We wanna make sure that that's the quality of the oil we can see as we pull it out, and we're primarily checking the quantity, all right? We can look in and see the oil filter, the date on it, the time on it, right? It should be not too old. So this one was done at the beginning of the month. Happens to be April Fool's Day, so I've been looking at that. Hopefully we'll change it next month and it won't be April Fool's anymore. All right, our exhaust goes through our carb heat. The carb heat tube or scat tube goes down to the carburetor, right? So when we turn on our carb heat, this warmed up air is going into the carburetor, right? These are all now stainless steel, so they're nice and in good shape. And then we have a stainless steel heater, and we want to make sure it's in good shape, right? Stainless steel is so much better than the aluminum that it came with. It's much better, all right? So we've checked the oil, we've checked the carb heat, we've checked the heater, right? All those things are very important. And now we're gonna look at the general condition of the engine. we're gonna push the little, not scat tubing, but baffling control here, this baffle, to carry the air close to the engine. And we just want to push it down so we can see it in here good. The cylinders should sound more like an instrument than, not. Make sure there's no mud daubers digging in there. We've got spark plugs on the top, spark plugs on the bottom. We want to make sure all those are connected. There's not a white powdery substance. If we're getting an exhaust gas leak, we're going to have a white powdery substance showing near the spark plugs. All right, so we're going to close this up. Push in, pry down, push it in vertical, and turn aerodynamically or horizontal. And that's the way we're going to secure every one of these, right? This plane hasn't had that happen, but I did have another plane that somebody didn't put that down and it popped up on takeoff. Okay, so then we're coming up to the front of the plane. We're gonna check, even though we just looked in here, we're still gonna stick our hand up in here. As long as it's not hot, make sure that there's no bird's nests in here, and none in this side. And then we're gonna check our alternator belt. That's in here, right? And everybody knows what it is. It's the only belt in there. We wanna make sure it's fairly tight, right? And then on the back side of it, there are teeth. We want to make sure all those teeth are intact. Our flywheel here has teeth on it, and we want to make sure all those are intact, not ground down, which is why when we try to start it, if it doesn't start the first time, we'll wait till the propeller is completely stopped. And then I always like to move the propeller just a little bit, right? Always make sure the keys are out. That's why we stick them up on the glare shield so that, it's not going to have any chance of starting for us. But just make sure this is directly connected to the engine. It is on the crankshaft, camshaft. And, so if this moves at all, then we know every one of those cylinders in there is moving and is free, right? We're going to look up here. Our air filter is intake is right in here, and we can actually feel the air filter, make sure that there's nothing built up on it, no ice, no debris, no insects, right? Our landing light, we're gonna check that when we turn the power on and come around. Down here in the bottom, we're gonna make sure that there's plenty of metal showing here. And the important thing is, because depending on how you step on it, get in and out, this could sit up really high. But we're looking to make sure that there's a dirty section on the bottom and that it's not coming down, bottoming out. The tire is in good shape, right? We're gonna have 24 pounds of air pressure in all of the tires. We're not gonna check that every time, but when you look to see what they look like, they should all look like this. We're gonna look in the left-hand side of the engine here. And you can see where one cylinder has been replaced, right? So it's a brand new cylinder, working on that. Should sound nice on here, right? We're checking around the baffling. We're checking to make sure all the spark plugs look good, no white powdery substance, right? There's the exhaust is all good. And as it comes around here, we can check the heater on the other side. That heater, right, has air coming into our cockpit and the exhaust goes through it. We want to make sure it's sealed up so we don't get any of those fumes in it. One of the important things on the left-hand side here is our brake fluid. So we want to make sure that our brake fluid, we can see the red fluid in there, and it should be up to this little line, right? So come in close and look at this line, right? And our brake fluid should be up to that line, so if you look down in there, you can see the red fluid in there. Not so well on the camera, but it is in there. All right, always make sure that that's there. If you can't see it, let me know, and we can put a little more in there so that it's always topped off. All right, we're gonna close these up again. We're gonna push in, pry down, put it in vertical, push it in, twist it horizontal so that it's aerodynamic. And do the same thing here. Push it in, pry it down, vertical, and then turn it horizontal. Okay? We have one thing we're gonna pause on for a second. We're gonna sump the fuel from this last lowest spot on the system after we do the other tank. So we're gonna come over here, we're checking the leading edge, right? Remembering we gotta go back there. And we'll stop right here, and then we're gonna go underneath and sump the tank. All right, get 1/2 inch to 1 inch of that. Make sure it stops dripping, okay? If it's still dripping, you're gonna be losing some fuel. And in today's world, fuel is very expensive. All right, so we're gonna come out, take the cap off, set it over one of the screw heads. We're gonna look in here, make sure it's blue, right? And clear, no debris in there, right? So it looks nice. And then we're gonna take and we're gonna sample it to the inside of the plane, right? All the way down, put our finger on it, lift it up, and you can see right here that it's at about 14 gallons, all right? It's dripping slowly, that's okay. Just know that the sooner you read it, the more accurate it's gonna be. All right? Now, we still got a little fuel in here. We're gonna take it over here and we're gonna sump from the lowest spot in the system because if we had sumped this first and some of the fuel started going, if there was water sitting there, that would be still in the middle of the system and wouldn't be able to check it. So it's nice and blue, everything's good. We're gonna pour it back in here through the hole, and you gotta pour pretty fast. Aviation fuel has a high viscosity, which means it's gonna stick to itself, right? So it's gonna suck around the jar if you don't pour fast enough, all right? That's the end of our fuel. And now we're gonna finish, started right here, we're gonna finish our leading edge, right? Out to our stall warning indicator, right? It's gonna tell us when we're within 10 knots of stalling, not when we're stalling. Continue our leading edge all the way out to the end. On this side, we have our red light, but we also have our ADS-B transponder. So we wanna make sure that that's all in good shape. Checking the wingtip, and then we're gonna get back, and this is our left aileron. We can still see the yoke inside there, so I'm gonna lift with the fat part of my hand, right? Fat part of my hand, lift it up, and I'm checking to see that the ailerons turn, right? If you've already mounted your iPad up there or something, it may be harder to turn, but try to do that afterwards. We're gonna check our hinge, each of our bolts, right? All 4 nuts on the back side, right? And we're gonna come across to the interior one and check the hinge here, push it down a little bit, make sure it all flexes. And then we're gonna look and check the push rod and make sure it wiggles but doesn't flop around, okay? And if you wanna come in here with the camera on that, you can see it right down here, right? You're gonna have to look up. All right, that rod that goes across there, there's only 1 on each side, there's not 2. So if there's any problem with it, we wanna get it fixed right away. All right, we'll push it back down, level with our flaps, right? Another reason to keep the flaps up right now so we can check that. Our yoke should be horizontal at this point. We're gonna check our flap, right? Make sure it won't go down, won't go up, right? We're gonna check 3 hinges. 1 hinge here, 3 threads sticking off, right? Next one is right on the rivets here, right? And we're gonna look right here, 3 threads sticking out, right? All in good shape. The last one, right up here next to the fuselage, we're gonna check the 3 threads and everything's good, all right? And we're gonna step back as we go along here. We're gonna look at our temperature probe, the gray piece of metal sticking out. You can also think thermometer, but proper word is temperature probe. We have our GPS 1, GPS 2, COM 1, COM 2, ELT is a little black one, and then up on top are our VORs. They make a V, think VOR, very high omni range, right? So as I get over to the plane, I'm going to go along the fuselage, just make sure it's good. It's sort of like an aluminum can. The more straight it is, the stronger it is, right? This is our stabilator. We're gonna make sure it moves smoothly, right? And as we're doing it, we can look up there and see the yoke moving, right? So if you wanna aim up there into the cabin, you can see the yoke moving along with what I'm doing. And notice I'm hanging on onto this side panel here. This piece of metal is heavier than all of these other ones. So we want to use the piece over here on the side to lift it up and let it down, okay? Our trim tab is here, and it's got hinges. These are riveted, so they're not going to have to check the nuts and bolts. Rivets here. The push rod for all this stabilator and the trim is right underneath here, right? And then we'll go all the way across, hinge, and then we're gonna come back and look at the rudder, right? And our rudder, we really can't push on it because it's connected to the nose wheel. So we can wiggle it though, right? And we can hear our cables in there, you know, moving a little bit, and we can make sure it's not moving either direction and it's pretty stable, right? The only hinge that we can get to see is right up here. The other one is back inside here, and we can't see it, but it does get checked every 50 and 100 hours, all right? Little tight quarters there. All right, stabilator. As we lift it on the other side, we want to lift on this side too. I always did it on one side until someone showed me that it was starting to wiggle on one side, and I had never checked that side. So we want to make sure left to right it's not loose, right? If there's any play in that, it needs to be addressed, and there is an AD on that, right? So if you're checking it every time, it should be in good shape. Coming over here, checking the fuselage, right? And then we're all the way back to where we started. All right, so we got one more thing to do, but I'm gonna, at this point, read my exterior summary and make sure that I've done everything. Fuel quantity, fuel quality, caps, drains, and vents. We checked all those. The engine, the oil and the belt, the prop, the air intake, the exhaust system, surfaces and controls, the pitot and the static ports, gear, tires, brakes, antennas, ties, chocks, tow bar, and our final walk around, right? So we're gonna do the final walk around as we go up. We're gonna turn all the lights on. We're gonna go around. We're gonna check the nav light on the right, the landing light in the front, the nav light on the left, our tail light and our rotating beacon. And we're also gonna check our pitot tube and our static port as we do this, all right? So I'm gonna set this down over here so I don't need that. And if you follow me up here, we'll turn the switches on. All right, so right up here in the front, we're gonna turn the two master switches on, the fuel pump on, just make sure it's working. It sounds like it's working good. We turn the landing light on and the strobe light are on, and our nav lights are on this roller wheel over here. I wanna make sure it's loose, all right? So then we're gonna be able to get out, go all the way around, check all these lights, and come back in generally within 2 minutes. So we didn't have to have the battery on for more than 2 minutes as we do this. All right, so we can see our green lights on over here. Our landing light is lit up here. We're gonna check our stall indicator. Hear the tone, right? There's also a little red light that came on in there. Can't really show you both of those at the same time, but if you have somebody else with you, you can have somebody lift it up and have somebody look at the light. Under here is our pitot tube. Our static port is right back here, and our water drain is right down there, all right? Just make sure there's no bugs built up, nothing's holding, keeping that from draining and letting the air in. On our left side, we have our red nav light and our ADS-B antenna. We have our tail light and our rotating beacon up on the top. It's not rotating, it's strobing, but nonetheless, it is our rotating beacon. All right, now we're going to get up and turn off the switches. And before we do that, because they take just a second to get up to the right amount, or right quantity, we're going to check our fuel gauges and make sure they read what we read out there. All right, that should be at least the minimum stuff you do.